welcome to year one. This is, as most of you guys who have been paying attention to the prior episodes of this, a podcast that's meant to dive deeper into the successes, the fears, the hacks, the good, the scary, all of it about ownership of an agency. I'm your host, Christian Gani. I'm a co-founder and partner at Outerkind, which is a creative agency based in Denver, Colorado. It's worth noting today and every day that our show is fully supported and produced by Indie Agency News. For more information, indieagency.news for all the latest. It's a hotspot on the web, shuts it down on a regular basis. A couple things for those of you that are new. Why are we here? It's really three things. We want to educate, we want to inspire, and we want to also demonstrate the realities and talk through the realities of new agency creation. That's a mouthful. But I appreciate you being here, and we've got some unbelievable guests today. Their backgrounds range from creative, leadership, art, education. It's an admirable blend, one that I'd actually hope would be on my LinkedIn page one day. Some have been lecturers, which here in the United States, I think is like professor, maybe wrong, I don't know, but education for sure. And they've also, both of our guests have founded an agency called Uncharted, which is a creative agency led by three female leaders, two of which are today here with us. Please welcome Laura Jordan Bambach and Hattie Matthews. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, Christian. Nice to meet you. Greetings from London.
Lovely to meet you,
Nice
Christian.
To meet you too. Nice to meet you too. I am envious that you're in London. We are doing quite a bit of work with a creative team in London, and I get to hear all about the lovely springtime weather that is approaching. I'm sure that you guys are super excited about that after the darkness of winter. But I'm really excited to talk with you both. I've done quite a bit of research and looking at both of your backgrounds. And I wanted to start with just a big, hairy meatball. Your backgrounds are this, as I said at the outset, this really beautiful blend, I think, of education and agency services. How did that blend happen? How did you focus? How do you have time to focus on sort of what I would call, and again, I could be wrong, giving back or sharing your experiences with others and running an agency at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. So it has been, I mean, it's very much part of who I am, and I think who we are, to give back, particularly to the next generation of talent, to underrepresented talent, to undiscovered talent. And actually, you know, there is a altruistic reason for it, but really it's a business reason as well, which is by doing that, and by doing that over such a long period of time, we have access to really fantastic talent that no one else has access to. So we have an incredible crew at the moment of maybe 65 really talented individuals from all sorts of different walks of life, who aren't necessarily, you know, in the standard advertising molds, and that has come through the three of us, and how much we've worked in that space, how much we've supported all of that talent and given back. And it keeps you young and fresh and like interested and interesting.
Hattie, Laura, thank you for sharing that. I mean, look, just from a time commitment standpoint, that must be incredible. I do understand the benefit side of it, both altruistically, but also business-wise. But let's talk about how that applies maybe to the business today. And Hattie, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about this, but the website, as soon as you go there, you're met with the words "set out without fear," which, as a fan of Ernest Shackleton, I couldn't think of a better way to describe his journey, but I'm sure that's not where you were headed. Talk to me about what that means to you, the business, the work.
I mean, we love a nautical analogy, right? But that wasn't the reason for it. You know, we're living in uncharted times, right? There's a lot of change, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, both brand side and within agencies. And really, we're there to help navigate those changes with confidence. What we were hearing from lots of CMOs and previous clients before we decided to set up was the challenges that they were facing. You know, it's been really, really tough the last few years. And what they were needing from an agency was an agency that's going to give them work that's going to work, and they're going to be confident in their recommendations and confident about leading them into the future, having fun as well, and not being afraid and not being on the back foot about what we're doing. So that's kind of where the name comes from.
And I think I would say that just in the modest amount of time I've spent looking at some of the work, like that comes through, right? River Action, Women Are Watching for UNGA, Trans Plus History Week. Those are projects I would think are grounded with real purpose. And then there's maybe another side of this, just to name a few, Marlowe Gin, Insignis, that are maybe more brand focused, more of the traditional work that us as agencies would tend to have in our arsenal. My question to you is, it's very aspirational to me personally to see that bifurcation of different types of work, but how difficult is it for you and the founders to sort of find that balance, or do you even look for that balance? Is it just sort of something that comes naturally? I don't know, Laura, do you have anything maybe you want to share about that?
We don't really see it as a bifurcation. We're there to help clients to do things they haven't done before, to do that with confidence, to be more in culture. And that is equally true of a brand, which is a purpose-led brand, as it is for much more of a commercial brand. I think the thing that unites all of our clients is their desire to do something new, their openness to new work and to change, and that relationship that we have with each other. We're finding that our clients are generally, they're all actually, they're like very good, very principled, very competitive, like astute marketers. And that could be, again, on the purpose side or on the more commercial side. So that's what really ties all of our clients together, rather than trying to balance. We certainly, we're not an agency for good. We don't want to be seen as an agency for good. But a lot of those clients sit within those businesses, and they come to us because they see that we can make a real difference.
Can I want to just expand and ask you a follow-up on that, Laura. Why don't you want to be seen as an agency for good? You made it very clear that was like, hey, we don't want to do this. I'm just curious as to why that's the case.
I think there are plenty of agencies that just do work for businesses that are doing good. The three of us really feel there is a lot of good that can be done. There's a lot of good that can be done by entertaining someone, by, creating a piece of wonderful content for them, by making them laugh, by making them cry, by moving into a new audience, by looking at different platforms. There's a lot more than just kind of good in this space, which is there to explore, particularly when you're thinking about work that really impacts in culture. So whether that's in gaming, or whether that's in social, or whether that's a partnership with Netflix, I think there's a lot of really powerful cultural work that you can focus on that doesn't necessarily have to have good. What I would say, or come from a good client, what I would say is there's an opportunity with every piece of work to make sure that it is progressive, that it is empathetic, that it really, really resonates with those audiences and does something that moves them. And I think that's the exciting bit, right? Not necessarily just working for charities.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand where that position comes from. Hattie, when I look at Laura's background, it feels like she starts a business like in her sleep all the time. And I'm curious, when you guys got together, as you know, this podcast is about sort of that first year ownership, or that spirit that happens. When you guys first got together, was there this like moment where you knew this had to happen between you and your partners? And if so, could you talk a little bit about what that manifestation sort of looked like?
Yeah, we definitely had that moment. We've known each other for years. It's not a new, relationship. So there's three of us. Fern and I worked together 19 years ago. We're still best friends. Laura and Fern worked together 17 years ago, and again 10 years ago. Like, we've been crossing paths, working with each other, supporting each other. So it's interesting you talked about the other initiatives. That's kind of how we know each other as well. Okay. Laura founded She Says. I've supported when I was at Accenture. I think we sponsored She Says. So like, it's been this kind of like relationship, both in the industry and outside of work as well. Like we love music, we love gigs, like we go to a lot of stuff together as well. So we've been kind of close for a long time. South by Southwest, we love all the technology at that. We usually speak at that kind of thing. So we were getting together. We said we were going to all bring a day, some, ideas of, we thought how it could work. We sort of said, maybe we should have a think about working together. And it was great. So kind of pretty much straight away, we felt that we align on vision for what we want to do, the kind of thing we want to do. We're very lean into tech. We're quite interested in where it's going. We're excited and optimistic about using technology responsibly. We're passionate about diverse talent and supporting underrepresented groups and things like that. And about doing really amazing work that's going to cut through in culture. So the kind of vision of what we wanted to do was really aligned. But then I think the other thing that was really important was, like, we know each other really well and we know that our values align. So we had that kind of drink, wine was involved. We realized quite quickly, this could be exciting. This could be a thing,
Well, let me follow up with that, Hattie, because when for many of us, by the way, that story it speaks to me, because when we started Outerkind 5 years ago, it was very much the same. It was 5 total partners. We'd all worked together for more than a decade, which is odd in the agency environment. And we're as close friends as we are business partners. And I know what that can mean for getting through all the muck right into the work, what the expectations level are, commitments and all that. But as you know, there are probably some people here listening that are on the fence. They're thinking about taking a leap. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest questions I get asked, Hattie, is when you decided to take the leap, did you start with clients already? Or were you like, the page is blank, we got to go get it? Was there a conversation around that at all as well?
Well, there's always the best laid plans of mice and men, and then there's the reality as well, right? So it definitely wasn't a breakaway from we weren't breaking away from a network agency with the client that we'd all worked on. And I've seen a lot of those. Right. We weren't that. We started to form it, in our heads and then on paper, and then start to go, okay, well, this is a proposition. We'll start road testing with people, like quietly, to see if we think, they think we've got a thing. And people got quite excited about it quite quickly, which is great. So that spiraled quite quickly into a couple of clients. And then we thought we had 2 or 3 sort of founding clients. It's time to kind of like hit go and let's do this, throw our hat over the wall and do it. But you know what? Things change in that period as well. So not all of those clients were still there. We found other ones. It just is a very unpredictable market at the moment. Yeah. So we were lucky we weren't, frankly, investing all of our, futures on one particular client or something like that. So right. Sort of a bit of trial and error, I suppose. But, having the guts to go, what, we're going to do it. We decided we're going to do it. Everyone else can. Then everyone took an interest and wanted to meet us, and then it grew from there. So, yeah,
I'm often flummoxed when that question comes across. I think all of us that are in agency culture, we're risk takers by virtue of sort of what we do every day. And, to have the book of clients that's just sitting on your desk that you can open up and magically call when you start is just not realistic. And so,
well, I also think, the agency that's the breakaway with the one big client from the big network model, I think that comes with, like, you sort of think, well, maybe that gives you more cushion, but actually it comes with just as much risk. I mean, I was at a previous agency that was startup, and we had that model, and that client left after a couple of years, and it was 3/4 of our revenue. And so that's a pretty terrifying situation to be, big famous brand that everybody knew, wanted to work with, but, through no fault of our own, back in that agency, it moved on. And so, there's no right way or wrong way, right? It's just your own way.
You started several businesses. Tell me the differences, positively, negatively, when Uncharted got its start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we started Uncharted, the most important thing was to think about what would an agency look like if you started it in 2024. And there has been so much that's changed. So I started an agency, Mr. President, that's still going. Started that in 2012. And at the time, there were certain things that you really needed. You needed people, you needed an office, you needed, there were there was a cost really, and a kind of a weight associated with starting a business, working on global clients, which we did from day one, that is not necessarily there now because of technology. So I think what we've done is really lean into technology to allow us to be global, to allow us to have access to a ton of talent, and work in different ways, to not charge time and materials, but actually charge on, outputs or outcomes, and look at more innovative ways of charging. I know Anomaly has done that for many, many years, but, they haven't had a lot of other people following their footsteps. Those kinds of decisions, setting up a business, has allowed us to be much more nimble, much more responsive. Clients are that there is a value in being fast, to see that there's actually, a financial benefit and a strategic benefit and a creative benefit actually of us kind of moving at speed with the right teams, rather than, I guess, where everyone was, back in the day, which was, the more hours you spend, the more you can charge your client, with all of those other overheads tied to. So actually, when we started Mr. President, we started with backing from Cassette, which is a bigger network in the US, and then eventually bought ourselves back. But that allowed us to have access to kind of what we needed, those fundamentals to get the business off the ground. And you just don't need that now, it's really wonderfully freeing. And it just, again, allows us to work with much more interesting people in more interesting ways. So I'd say it's a good time to start an agency.
And I think there's what you just said. There's so much truth to it, right? Like 10 years ago, you would have needed a fax machine, a giant printer, an office, a coffee machine, like all of those things. And I'm being somewhat sarcastic here, but I think the root of what you're saying is there is a desire from clients to move more quickly, to spend time on resources that are most effective for their work, and do so in a way that is focused on, as you said, outcomes versus how long can I draw this thing out in order to maximize my profitability as an agency.
Absolutely. And I think because we've got a model like that, we can also then, work with clients to do different kinds of work, things that maybe they wouldn't have tried doing before, or to really kind of walk through slowly the things that need to be walked through slowly, and then go at speed at the things that can be, gone at speed. So it's a really good ecosystem, I guess, kind of symbiotic ecosystem you can create between us and the clients. And just, we don't need offices all over the world to be able to do global work now, because we have a team all over the world, and we have the ability to deliver all over the world. So it's a good time to do a different model.
And when we sat in our homes in March of 2020, we never thought the positive outcome of that would be that our teams can be spread around the world and can now execute work in a number of different places. As I started off our conversation saying, our teams in Germany and in the UK for Outerkind are doing great work, and they don't need to be in our office here in Denver. So I really have two more things I'd like to try and quickly cover here before we let you guys go. One is a topic that is of particular importance to me, but has also been a conversation for indie agencies. And that's around the three letters R, F, and P. When to dive in, how much level setting do we need to do with clients? And I'm just curious, and I think our viewership would be curious as well. How do you guys at Uncharted evaluate RFPs in terms of, is this a good fit for us? Should we put forth this effort? It's unpaid in many times. There's spec work required. Talk me through some of the conversations you guys have internally when an RFP hits your inbox. I'm dying to know this.
We're trying to avoid this race to the bottom, probably as much as everyone else is. It's pretty bad. There's, a lot of existential threats to our industry, and how competitive and the arms race of pitching. People are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on just the pitch, which they may get back. And we're giving best bits of our work away for free, and being charging for the delivery, which is also getting flipped on its head with AI coming. And things like delivery are going to cost less. So where are you getting the value? It's all a bit of a mess. So we're trying to avoid doing that RFP game of fill us out a spreadsheet with hourly rates, and then we'll tell you that you're more expensive than our agency in Liechtenstein, and then we'll tell you that you can't have as many hours because we've got AI now. So we've all seen that, right? And it's like, well, then you're losing on the pitch because you've invested so much time. You're using because they've hammered you on the service model, which is not sustainable. Like it's going to kill agencies. It's going to kill the landscape, and they're going to end up with worse creative that doesn't perform because they'll have stripped out any ability for an agency to make a margin. Therefore, you're just going to get less people, less good people, and the work's going to suck. So we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to productize our offer and trying to charge for outputs and outcomes where we can. It's sometimes difficult getting access to the data, etc., but it's brilliant to try and do that. And because we're new, we can kind of do that. That's one of the great things about starting your own agency is you can do whatever you like. You don't have to pick. I mean, you got to then win business in other ways, but you don't have to. Like BBH, when they started, said they were not going to pitch. They had some like amazingly badass creative, like to go, well, if you want us, come and have a conversation. But I do think more clients are open to working with agency partners without the full pitch. They just need to be educated a bit, some of them, because they don't really know. I had a guy the other day, he's an MD, he's never run a pitch before. Somebody had told him he needed 5 agencies. I'm like, why? That's just ridiculous. Why do you need 5 agencies?
Because his procurement team decided that would be a good idea,
well,
perhaps.
Yeah, quite often you know what? The amount of times you say no and then people come back, right? We've all been there. Yeah. I want to do a pitch
Laura,
I'd like to put a pitch on like the day after Christmas or something like that. No, okay, they come back, they've changed their mind. So and it had a client where I was told already, I said, look, we won't be doing hourly rates and that way of doing things. I'll be doing this is a product. You can, this is what you're going to get. And the procurement said, well, we need all agencies to fill out our rate card. And I said no, and they said fine. So we got through it.
Laura, I know you have something to say about this.
Yeah, look, there are so many other ways of kind of slicing things these days. And I think we all feel that it's been a race to the bottom for a long time, right? We all feel that the things that are of real value to our clients to grow their businesses are brilliant strategy, brilliant creative, those sort of connected, integrated thinking and ideas, the ability to kind of measure and feedback. All of these things are where the value is to a client, and yet the value is so often placed on beautiful design, thoughtful design, the craft, and instead the value is often placed in the wrong place because that's easier to measure. So it's how many hours is it taken to make X number of assets, and blah 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 blah. We are going to, as an industry, I mean, we already are, right? AI is coming for so many little pieces of what it is that we do. Our industry is going to survive, but we need to refocus on where the value is to our clients and understand how to both charge for that, and to make sure that what we're doing, to be really accountable for the fact that our work helps their businesses grow as well. That's something else that kind of tends to get broken through the line. There's been so many clients I've spoken to who've said the answer to the brief has been a TV ad because that's what they know how to do, or those are the people that are kind of sitting around the office. We need to be smarter than that as an industry if we want to kind of continue doing amazing work into the future.
I swear I could do 30 more minutes on just this topic alone, because I think it is, in many ways, as Hattie mentioned, it's kind of an existential threat to our business. Our model is changing. Our clients' expectations are changing. Like, there's a lot of moving pieces here, but I'm going to park that for a second because I do want to get to the last question, which I ask all guests. And I think, I know there are people listening to this that are like sitting on the sidelines. And they may be working at a larger agency. They may be thinking about creative services. And as many times as you can tell them that there isn't an easy button to press, and that it's going to take hard work and diligence, I just wonder if either of you, and I'll start with you, Hattie, what you would say to those individuals that are sitting on the sidelines, thinking about doing what you guys have done in the past year and a half, putting together a creative services business, an agency, tell me what you would tell them.
I think there's no better time to do it. It's a really tough time in many ways. Like the market, US, Europe, globally, is oversupplied and challenging. And, things like tenure of CMOs have gone down, and there's it's not an easy market to get into. But at the same time, in a way, no better time to do it because there's so much change happening. There's going to continue to be even more change. I think the pace of change is going to continue. I think the market's going to open up to a lot more new niche players as well. So if you've got something in your head that's perhaps smart and niche and answers a certain really good need, then I think it's a really great time to do it. Also, the barrier to entry is much lower than it used to be. As you said, you used to need a bunch of permanent people to be able to deliver anything, and they need to have boots on the grounds in those markets you're working in. And nowadays you can be much more agile. There's amazing talent out there in every market available. So I think the barriers to entry lower. So I'm a big believer they should just go for it. But at the same time, I appreciate it's a lot. It might not be for everybody. And, it's going to be challenging because the market is challenging, but it's a lot of fun. It's so fun. We work in an industry despite all its challenges, and we all, moan about pitching and things like that. It is fun. The people are awesome. Briefs are interesting. We do amazing work when we're at our best, and there's a lot worse places to be.
Amen to that. Laura, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I would say, my biggest tip, I would never do it without really knowing and understanding who the partners I was starting out with are. And I wouldn't do it on my own. And the reason for that is it is super fun, but it is really hard. And everyone has both, their work passions and the things that they're great at, also things maybe that they're not so great at, and also has the rest of their lives, sometimes you will be flying and sometimes you are going to be kind of, stuck in a rut or having to prioritize something else for a minute. And I think it's so important to make sure that you have partners you can work with who all trust each other, who all have different kinds of skills, so you're not concentrated on one side or the other as much as possible. Trust each other to have their back, and also are rangy enough to be able to step in. I think that's been the great thing with Fern and Hattie and I, is we've been around a long time, but we're still like the three of us very much in the work. So, when you are starting a business, you do have to do everything from designing an Instagram post to doing artworking to, doing that spreadsheet, to keeping the meeting notes, to like doing strategy, big and small, and everything in between. So finding that partnership where you can lean in and support one another and help one another is really key, and that you have enough honesty between the three of you to be able to also put your hands up when things aren't working. I think one of the things I love the most, working with Fern, is she can be really, really punchy, but she's also a really, really great friend, and often what she says is absolutely bang on most of the time. Actually, I'd say probably all of the time. But that little bit of rub makes the work better. So you need to be able to create an atmosphere which is super supportive, but also like you're comfortable putting your hand up if something's not working.
Yeah, you need some comfortable sandpaper, I think, Laura, is what you're referring to.
I also did something about three. It wasn't by design. We just happened to be three of us that are friends. But I think there's something quite interesting about that. I think if you're a 2 or a 4, it must be quite difficult if you don't all agree. There's something really good about a 3. It's like the third wing.
Yeah.
You can sort of keep challenging things. Keep pushing things.
I'm going to tell Doug that the next time we have 2 guests as entertaining and as enlightening as you two, we need to make this a 60-minute podcast. Thank you both. What a lovely conversation. What a great way to end it. I love that last question, because I don't think there's not been one time I've asked that question that someone said, don't do it. It's a terrible time. I mean, it's all within reason, and your points are very valid about the timing and the expectations and partners and honesty. And as Laura said, I'm gonna steal that new term now, comforting sandpaper. Thank you both for joining the conversation. I'm sure this will be enlightening for all of the people who will listen to it. And if you are ever in Denver, you are always welcome at Outerkind HQ. Hattie, if you come to
I will
Boulder,
come and see you next time I'm there.
we'll send the car over.
Come
The
and
Outerkind
see us
official.
in London. Yeah.
Indeed, I will. Thank you both so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to both of you.
Thanks, Christian.
Christian.